Discovered on the floor of Suzanne's bedroom, crumpled and discarded like a used Kleenex, is our fifth clue, a ransom note. Quote, get $20,000 ready and wait for word. Do not notify FBI or police. Bills in 5s and 10s. Burn this for her safety. The Degnans' hearts just sank when they saw this note. Now, it was clear that obviously Suzanne had been kidnapped, and the $20,000 ransom the kidnapper was asking for, which is equivalent to over like $300,000 today, was not a sum that they could just easily come up with. Like the lipstick note that was found on Frances's wall, the handwriting was super sloppy, a mix of capital and lowercase letters, but the consistently capitalized letters aren't the same. For example, the ransom note capitalizes the R's, while the lipstick message wrote R's in lowercase. And they're even more frantic because now they're realizing like it's obviously too late to convince the kidnappers into thinking that they hadn't called the police. There were already 45 people in their house and marked police cars all over the street. So the police tried to figure out where the note itself came from. On the day of the kidnapping, January 7th, Charles Wilson, head of the Chicago Police Department's crime lab, announced that the ransom note and lipstick message in Frances's were not written by the same person. Two more notable handwriting experts actually were brought on to analyze these two notes, and they came to the same conclusion. Which brings us to our sixth clue, which is kind of an odd collection of items that were discovered all around the Degnan household. Remember, Suzanne's window was left open a crack, so it's believed that's how the intruder entered and exited the home. There were 4 unidentified fingerprints found on Suzanne's windowsill. One newspaper article said that they belonged to the family's maid, but the coverage only mentioned 2 fingerprints, whereas there had allegedly been 4 on the windowsill altogether. Again, this is old-time sources, so a little bit of conflicting information out there. There was a ladder found outside the home that turned out to be stolen from a nearby daycare facility. Presumably, the ladder was tested for fingerprints, but no findings were ever announced to the public. There were also 2 footprints found near the back porch, where someone might have walked while carrying a ladder to Suzanne's window. But again, very little is actually reported on those footprints. About a block north of the house, though, investigators find something suspicious. Discarded under an apartment building's rear staircase was a handkerchief and a loop of wire. Police thought that this wire could have been used for strangulation, and the handkerchief itself was folded into a shape that looked to them like it might have been used for a gag. The wire also had some blonde hairs stuck to it, though we don't know if those matched Suzanne's strawberry blonde hair or not. But there was something else on that handkerchief, which is a name. Quote, S. Sherman. Police began a citywide search for anyone with S. Sherman. They ultimately found 2, but both of those people had solid alibis. But that same day, investigators receive another pretty solid lead.
Word starts spreading really fast by the afternoon of what's happened. And as the city learned of Suzanne's disappearance on June 7th, this 25-year-old veteran named George Sobgrunski comes forward with a story. Now, George was dropping his girlfriend off at her apartment near the Degnans' house on the night of the kidnapping around 1 a.m. This was around the same time that multiple people in the house said that they heard those strange noises. And he claims that when he was making this drop-off, he saw a man, probably about 35 years old, approaching the Degnans' house while carrying a shopping bag. George said that he wasn't able to see the man's facial features, but he could tell that this guy was probably 5'9", around 170 pounds, wearing a light fedora and a dark overcoat. Police were unable to find the girlfriend that George was talking about. He would only refer to her as Marge. He didn't really give any more details other than that, which was
sus.
A little odd. So they were never able to really corroborate his story. However, there was another neighbor who did report that she had seen George while she was walking her dog around that time. So it does seem like he was there and would have made this observation. Though she didn't see a girlfriend with him. She never saw this Marge. And she also didn't see a fedora-wearing man with a shopping bag. Police didn't seem to find George or the situation that strange, though. He had called the tip in himself. There was no reason for him to. But they're going to need more information than this if they're going to really try to go after someone. And it's not the only tip that's called into the police, though, luckily. So Jim Degman made a radio appearance the same day that Suzanne disappeared. And afterwards, a call was made to the police department at around 7 p.m. that night. The anonymous caller suggested that they should search the area's sewers and storm drains. It was one of a bunch of tips that were pouring in. I mean, the community really wanted to help find this little girl. So initially, police didn't really know what to make of it. Do we take it all that seriously? Like, that's a lot of effort and money to like go search all these storm drains. But then they noticed that there was an area outside of one of the neighbors' buildings in the neighborhood, and the ground around it looked like it had been disturbed. So they decided that they were going to take a closer look. 13 detectives, all in fedoras and trench coats, gathered in the alley south of the Degnans' home, and they found that there was a lid to a sewer drain that looked like it had been tampered with recently. So they go ahead and they pull it off, and as soon as one of the policemen shines his flashlight into the dark water-filled basin, they know that the search is over. They know that they found what they were looking for. And just a quick warning to everyone listening, there's going to be some graphic details that I describe about the scene, so it's a good time if you want to take a minute or two and just skip ahead to avoid this part. Inside of that sewer, police found Suzanne's head, meaning that the kidnap investigation was officially now reclassified as a murder case. And not to mention, now they realized that whoever had called in and suggested that they needed to check the sewers might actually have been the person that did this.
Every week, we dive into the pieces, both hidden and obvious, behind some of the biggest true crime cases. Subscribe to Clues Pod with Morgan Absher and Kaelyn Moore on YouTube.
And remember, every clue counts.